Hello and welcome to a very special episode of US Election Watch. I am Gaurie Dwivedi and I'm reporting live from New York. I am at Statue of Liberty, and over the course of next 30 minutes, we're going to get you every detail that matters in the US election entering their last lap. But first up, the headlines. The Trump versus Harris contest now enters its last mile. The US Decides gets you the very latest from on ground, covering every aspect of this election. Georgia official warns of Russian interference in the US elections. Official says that the poll disinformation is coming from Russian troll farms. Over 62 million Americans have already cast their vote in the American elections. Early voting smashes all records in this election. All right, the election now have entered pretty much their last lap. Just a couple of days left. 5th of November is when the election will take place. Early voting has already happened. It has smashed all records in the past. In fact, the race, if we were to speak, it's probably the tightest in the history of American elections. The latest 538 poll shows that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump remain tied, with Kamala Harris leading with a slim 1% margin. That's pretty much as neck to neck as it gets. And in fact, in the final days of campaigning, both the Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the Democrat nominee, and former President Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, are holding dueling rallies in Wisconsin. Remember, this is one of the 7 swing states which pretty much hold the key to who gets that magical number of 270. Now, this comes after Donald Trump spoke at former Fox host Tucker Carlson's event in Arizona, another very crucial state for the Republicans. And Harris held a star-studded extravaganza in LA, where it was Jennifer Lopez who came in support of her, throwing her weight and her star power behind, and also pitching in after that racist comment that took place at Donald Trump's rally targeting the Puerto Ricans. They're a very strong vote base. They matter in pockets, particularly Los Angeles, where that rally with Jennifer Lopez took place for Kamala Harris. All right, we're getting you, as I said, ground zero updates from across America. My colleagues spread across in New York, in Washington, D.C., telling you how and what really matters in this election. But first up, let's get in Alistair, who joins us live to give us a sense from Washington, D.C., to get us a sense of what this election means when it comes to the black voter. Remember, we say that in India, race and ethnicity and caste matters. Well, that's exactly what matters in this US election as well. Alistair, tell us how crucial is the black voter? You are at Harvard University, Kamala Harris's alma mater. Talk to us about this very crucial vote base of the blacks.
Absolutely, Gaurie. Extremely important, the black vote. And like you said, I'm at Howard University. It's a historically black university. It's a university from which Kamala Harris graduated in 1986. I have with us some students from Howard. We're going to speak to them currently. They're current students. They're quite excited to be talking to us. And like I was saying, Kamala Harris has had a long association with Howard, not just graduating from here, but keeping her ties really with Howard ever since she graduated in 2019. She made her first presidential bid from here. Then, of course, closer to that, she also had her debate prep with for Donald Trump. She had that here. And of course, the big thing happening on Tuesday night, Kamala Harris has chosen Howard University on the day when the election results come in to have herself stationed here. Pretty exciting, do you think?
Yes, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Although we won't be able to access the campus, I think it's a very historical time and very significant to our community.
Very significant, exciting, but a bit nervous for Kamala Harris, would you say?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely feeling a little bit anxious here because we don't know the results of the election yet. And then also there are safety concerns with Kamala being on campus within such a relatively short time, like time frame of letting the students know. So definitely something we'll be looking out for.
All right. So, Malik, you've been following this, and by the way, these are all political science students mostly. Malik, you've been following this. There are several policies of Kamala Harris that you perhaps do like. Is there anything that you are critical of in terms of what she brings to the table?
I find it really difficult to be critical when everything's such a step forward. When, for example, the policies of giving small businesses, right? Their ability to have a strong foundational, just build somewhere to build up from. It's such a step forward that I'm not looking to criticize progress. I'm looking to be accepting and interested in what's going to push us forward and not keep us stagnant or push us back.
All right, Evan, you are a young black voter. There are concerns that a lot of young black voters are not coming out as strongly to vote for Kamala Harris as one would imagine. Why do you think that's the case?
I don't actually believe that to be what we should be focusing on in this election. I think that young black voters will turn out. I think what we should be focusing on is demographics that tend to not show up. So white women specifically, who half and half end up voting for Democrats and Republicans, right? And so I think instead of like hyper focusing on the black community and what we're doing, I think it's important to make sure that we're focusing our energy towards other communities too, to make sure that they're voting as well.
Leo, do you agree with that? Because you do have a lot of black women, a lot of white women supporting Kamala Harris, but when it comes to young black men, that doesn't quite seem to be adding up. At least that's what the reports are telling us.
Okay, yes, I fully agree with that. I think we should kind of take this focus off of black men not supporting Kamala, because I think we're getting a lot of things coming from like the internet, and the average black person or the average black man is not saying these things. I think like Evan said, we should look at white women. If we look at the previous election with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, white women were the reason why Hillary did not win. So I think if we focus on those marginalized, those other groups, then like instead of looking at the black community and try to like force this narrative that like, oh, we're kind of like rippled, then I think we would get a better like response and kind of like follow up with what's really going to go on. Also, I think another thing is like the polls. We should realize that polls don't actually really tell us who votes. There's a lot of things with polls, like polls might focus, like you said, on black men or black women, but like what about Asian Americans that are not included in the polls? What about Latino community that's not that's not being a part of the polls? So I think we should kind of like take our minds off of the polls, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to who's showing up on election day or early voting.
Are you guys ready to talk about Donald Trump now?
Sure.
All right. Lots of dark language, lots of vile language. Personally, how has that felt for you? Have you felt any kind of backlash on campus, perhaps, Malik?
No, I haven't felt backlash on campus. Of course, we're all very passionate here. But I think one thing that I see a lot of people able to do is separate emotion from fact. And a lot of people like to judge people on their words, if they're flamboyant or not. But you can also judge people by how they surround themselves. And the fact that Kamala is going to come here to surround herself with this community, the one that supported her and was her alma mater, that tells us a lot. The fact that she's devoted her life to civil service, and Donald Trump has devoted himself to a life of business. It makes you think that if he's surrounding himself with business, maybe to us we're just business.
So, Evan, what about you? Yes, of course, no backlash perhaps on campus because the majority of students here are black, but just up and about in the city, just maybe even traveling across the U.S., is there a sense of kind of unease that you kind of have felt in the last little while in the lead up to the elections?
Like a sense of uneasiness related to what exactly? Could you be more specific?
In terms of, just being up and about in the city, any kind of discrimination? Do you think people are more uptight? What's the sense you're getting?
I definitely wouldn't feel that here in DC, specifically because this is a very diverse city full of lots of different people. And so I haven't necessarily felt discriminated against for my political opinions. I think if anything, what we've seen in DC is a large community of people that are both supportive of Kamala Harris, but also critical of Kamala Harris with the way that she handles policies related to the Middle East. I think it's very important to not leave that out of the conversation and to ensure that she knows that just because there are black voters that are excited to see someone from their alma mater in those positions, we also can't leave out the fact that She does need to institute an arms embargo. She does need to call for a ceasefire, and she does need to actually support Middle Eastern and Arab American voters.
Layla, I see you vigorously nodding.
Yes. Like Evan said, we can't fully speak for others about how they feel. I don't feel uneasy. I don't feel like I'm being discriminated against for my political views. I also just feel like if anyone feels uneasy, I mean, as a black person in America, we feel uneasy any other day. Like that's a normal thing given the historical context of this country and how we were brought here. So I don't think that's just like because of this election, that's how we feel. I'm uneasy every day. I'm a black woman in America. Like, there's policies against me right now that are controlling what I can do with my body. But as Evan said, I think we need to focus on holding her accountable. Like he said, she is a Howard alum. That is a beautiful thing. She is a black woman. But however, we have to focus on accountability, whether it's Trump or if it's Kamala or whoever the case it may be, because these are the people that are representing us, and we're supposed to amplify our voices.
Okay, there's a frenzy of activity on campus. Just saw some of it with a lot of construction, getting ready with the stage. Kamala Harris is going to be here on November 5th. What's the plan for you? Are you going to be here?
Like I said, we can't be here because security issues, so I will be at home watching, the counts come in.
What about you guys? Any luck?
So unfortunately, I'm also not going to be on campus just because all of our campuses, or most of our classes, have been moved online just for safety concerns with so much going on around the election. But I do plan to have an election night party, watch party with my friends. So. And
Malik, maybe come here, catch a glimpse from the outside, perhaps, of Kamala Harris.
I'll probably be here to the last minute. I think it's history, and I wouldn't want to miss it for the world.
So you're going to stake out from the outside?
As long as I can, but I think I'll be waiting in the wings maybe in the house with my family on the phone, come time.
Great, thank you so much, guys. That, of course, our students here from Howard University, Malik, Evan, and Layla. Thank you for joining us here on NDTV World.
Thanks for that very engaging conversation, Alistair. Alistair, thanks for that very engaging conversation. Some very important points that will the black male voter base really swing the deal in favor of Donald Trump? Well, we'll know in just a couple of days. Let's also now get in Natasha joining us from New York to fill us in terms of what are, the women voters saying. What about some of the immigrants? Remember, New York is one of the sanctuary cities, as they call, where buses full of immigrants actually come in. So, Natasha, take it away. Tell us, first of all, in terms of speaking in LA, Harris brought back attention to the women vote. She mentioned that, and she also, of course, highlighted what Donald Trump's offensive comments were. You've been speaking to women across the board. What have they been telling you? It's a crucial vote base. Which way is it going? What's the mood like? Tell us.
Well, with women too, as it is for the rest of the country and different immigrant groups, it remains very closely between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Let's now put the spotlight for a brief second on white women. The reason they are important is that they make 30% of the electorate. And in 2016, the backlash after the presidential race was one of the reasons that was found to be is that white women did come out to vote, but they did not lobby or canvass in support of Hillary Clinton. And the feeling was that one of the reasons why she lost, who could have been the first woman to break the glass ceiling here in the United States. So a lot of young white women and even older white women are out canvassing in these last few days to try and hammer in the point that reproductive rights are for all women, including all colors, and that white women need to come out in to vote for Harris. On the other hand, with Donald Trump, he has, despite his offensive remarks, has been able to hold them in his support in large numbers, because a lot of women that I spoke to of different colors and races still feel that he will be stronger when it comes to protecting the economy, protecting the nation. So what is interesting to watch is that it's not a monolith. There are a lot of different factors at play here, and things could be very different from 2016 when not enough white women came out to vote, and that could change with all the canvassing that is being done. And another important factor is Roe versus Wade, because it was after that election that Roe versus Wade was overturned. And that is a crucial issue for women, and also how Donald Trump talks about women. So it is going to be interesting to watch the women vote. And at the moment, according to polls, it is still divided between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, though a few polls are showing a slight lead by Vice President Kamala Harris when it comes to women voters.
Indeed. And what about the immigrant vote base? Donald Trump's rally saw some comments being made by some comedian on stage, particularly targeting the Puerto Ricans as a community. But that has a huge impact in the last leg of the election, doesn't it? Talk to us about the immigrant vote base, the impact that those comments could have on which way this vote base could go.
Absolutely. It can have a huge impact, not only on the Latino vote and the Hispanic population that felt very insulted by the remarks of the US being a dumping ground, quote unquote, island of garbage for Puerto Rico. All of that has really riled them up. We've seen some high profile influencers also on social media who were Hispanic and were voting for Donald Trump earlier and have changed that. We've seen Jennifer Lopez on stage with Kamala Harris calling out for women to come out and vote in support of Harris. So yes, in such a close race, especially, it could matter a lot. We spoke on the ground to a lot of immigrants in the Queens neighborhood of New York City. It's one of the most diverse neighborhoods, with 47% of the populace having been born overseas. And here too, we got mixed reactions. Some voters were really offended, and not just Hispanics, but also Indian American voters who said they were very offended by what was said of Puerto Ricans, because the language that is used for immigrants overall, whether they be legal or illegal, is acerbic and in a way that it hasn't been in previous elections that I've covered here in the US. And even the sense of fear that we are now seeing as to what happens if Donald Trump comes into power. He has promised mass deportations from day one, though he hasn't given clear outlines on how he's actually going to deport millions of people. So that has put a lot of fear, and fear definitely also leads to heightened emotion. Heightened emotion leads to people who being on the fence, who would make the effort now to go and vote. So yes, this is a major issue, and cry for a lot of immigrants, and we'll now see on Tuesday how this plays out. And also, I want to just add, I do want you all to hear some of the voices that we spoke to in Queens, a range of people, Bangladeshi immigrants, Nepali immigrants, and others, to see what they have to say and who they'll be voting for and why. Let's listen in. Immigration is far more than just a political talking point. Issues related to immigration affect both immigrants, non-immigrants who have been here for a long time, as well as immigrants who have come here both legally as well as illegally. We spent an entire morning here in Queens, New York, talking to a wide range of people in the lead up to the US presidential elections. Now, Queens is incredibly diverse, with almost 47% of the population having been born outside the United States. Are you going to be voting first and foremost this election?
It's a little different political climate since the last couple of years, but I still haven't made up my mind, so I'm still debating on who I'm voting for.
And why are you undecided this year? Like, what are the things which are weighing on your mind?
The economy, immigration, small businesses, how they're affected today, and what we're doing every day, you know.
Now, just on this weekend at Madison Square Garden, Donald Trump, as well as his supporters who spoke for him, used some very offensive language for immigrants, including Puerto Ricans. How do you feel about that?
It's disgusting. It's pretty terrible that we can laugh about other people and their cultures and the soil they stay on. So it's kind of disrespectful. I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm Indian. And, you know, I have Puerto Rican friends that did not find those words respectful. So I'm a big fan of Kill Tony, and that was kind of sad to see.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who are you going to go for?
Trump.
And tell us why, what's behind your decision?
I want the security here. Like before, it was very secure place in Queens, but nowadays I feel like no security here. Lots of crime, and so I want somebody who look for all those things, and I feel like Trump he gonna do something better for that. That's the reason like I want to vote for him.
Who are you going to vote for and why? And why?
I am citizen about 32 years. I am vote about 31 years. Always I vote. Councillor, senator, president, every time. My family, 5% citizen. I always Democrat. Always no Trump. I don't like. Kamala Harris, Democrat is good. Democrat good.
While Trump and Harris differ in approach, with Trump calling for mass deportations, they also share some surprising similarities. Both are calling for stricter immigration policies, and Harris too wants tougher border measures. In Queens, New York, this is Natasha Esrani with camera person Hemant Pandya for NDTV World.
In fact, immigration is one of the issues on which this election is being fought on. Shifting focus now to Donald Trump's tweet, he also in fact mentioned that he wants to strengthen his country's partnership with India, and he also quoted, and in quotes he said, his good friend, that is Prime Minister Modi. Take a look at this report that my colleague Vishal has filed, talking about the Indian American vote, its significance, and why Donald Trump is speaking out in favor of them. Take a look.
Donald Trump has condemned violence against Hindus, Christians and other minorities in Bangladesh and accused both Joe Biden and his Democratic rival Kamala Harris of ignoring Hindus across the world and in America. In a post on X, he said that he will protect Hindu Americans against anti-religion agenda of the radical left, which was a veiled reference to the Kamala Harris campaign. He added that he will strengthen ties with India and PM Modi, whom he termed his good friend. This is not the first time Trump has tried to woo Indian American voters. During an event in Houston in 2019, when PM Modi was on a US visit, Trump had said that he was truly proud to have the Indian American community as Americans. Back when he was running for president in 2016, he had spoken in Hindi by saying, "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar." Let's listen in.
We love the Hindus. We love India.
Abhi ki baar, Trump Sarkar.
So the question is, why is Trump reaching out to Indian American voters? Well, the facts tell the complete story. There are over 5 million Indian Americans in the US, and more than half of them are eligible to vote in the election just around the corner. Besides being most politically active group among Asian Americans, there are other signs pointing to their significance. According to a latest survey, there has been a modest drift among the community from the Democratic Party toward the Republicans. Though most from the community still show their support for the Democrats, the number has decreased in the last 4 years. An estimated 61% of respondents from the community will vote for Harris, the survey found, down by nearly 4% as compared to last presidential election in 2020.
All right, you heard the Indian American vote, you heard the Hindu American vote. Let's also, in fact, play out this conversation that Alistair had talking about the black voter per se. How will they vote in this election? Listen in.
Yes, Gaurie, we're still here at Howard University, a historically black university, Kamala Harris's alma mater. To get you that answer on the black vote, we're joined by Associate Professor of Political Science at Howard University, Marcus Board. He specializes in black politics. Marcus, if you could tell us a little bit about that black vote and how crucial it is, I think for people to really understand, maybe you could draw a comparison for us with what happened with Joe Biden the previous time around.
Yeah. The black vote is one of the most consistent votes in the Democratic Party, and without that vote, they're unable to get the margins that they need to get victory. You know, the thing about presidential elections is that the majority doesn't win, and so you actually need wins in the appropriate states, and those states, there's a lot of black voters.
In the swing states.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Now, talking about those swing states, we are looking at Georgia or North Carolina, for example. There have been mail-in ballots or early voting where people can put in their ballots before November 5th, before next week. Somewhat underwhelming those numbers have been, and is that really a worry for Kamala Harris at this point in the race because it's so tight?
No, it's not a worry. The media, the way that you receive data is piece by piece, but the reality is we have such a low percentage of those votes counted that you really kind of have to see it through. The reality is also that the gap in winning and losing is going to probably be bigger than the number of mail-in votes anyway. And so you kind of have to wait it out, unfortunately.
So you're being quite optimistic about that. So you think more black voters will come out between now and Tuesday and on Tuesday itself?
Absolutely, yeah. The majority of voters show up on Tuesday. There's still a large contingent of people who don't vote. And we would love to see both parties do a little bit more work on getting them involved in the political process.
All right, I asked some of your students this about young black voters not coming out and perhaps not voting enough. They kind of shot me down on that point. What do you have to say from a, say, neutral point of view?
They are smarter than all of us, so I trust them. But I will also add that, you know, black men in particular are the second most consistent voters in the Democratic Party. And so I did do a focus group with black men who are not voting for Harris, but who will be voting for the Republican Party. And essentially, the most interesting finding I'd say that came out of that is that they're willing to overlook the racism. To their mind, both parties have problems with race. They need somebody who's going to get things done for them. And in their minds, it's the Republican Party. Is that consistent with the data? No, but that's the party's responsibilities to convince them to vote for him.
I have a very last quick question for you. For black voters or black male voters who are going to vote Trump, I'm trying to get my head around it. Trump has made these racist comments, but yet there are this small group, or maybe slightly more, of black voters who will eventually vote for him. Why is that the case?
Because racism didn't start with Donald Trump. Racism is staggering in this country. It's the reason why we have a university called Howard. And so we need...
but these are black men voting for
right.
someone who has said racist things.
It's like saying, you know, if you get in the pool, you want to stay in the warm side of the pool and not the cool side. And it's like, listen, whatever side I'm on, I'm still going to be wet. That's racism. And so it's hard to get away from in this country. And so for them, they're saying, listen, if we're in the pool and you said that part feels better than this part, it's grass is greener. I don't agree, but I do think that's a part of their philosophy.
Thanks very much. Marcus Board, Associate Professor here at Howard University. Everyone looking forward to that big event on November 5th, where Kamala Harris is going to be right here as those election results roll in. Gaurie.
Thanks for that, Alistair. Thank you, Natasha, for joining in this very special episode of US Election Watch. We're going to keep coming back with more details, but right now, that's all we have in this edition. Thank you so much for watching.